Oh, that wasn't me acting. I actually didn't know I was live. But good morning and welcome, Nigeria. You've tuned into Breakfast Xtra, your morning passport to truth, chaos, and of course, a little timely toast, as it turns out. Now, the only show that's bold enough to ask the questions that would get others chased off of air, but somehow, just somehow, we managed to still get away with it. Maybe it's because of the nuanced comedy, or maybe it's the charm, I don't know. Or maybe it's just easier to swallow the truth when you're too busy laughing. So we capitalized on it. In any case, you want to grab your coffees now, your caffeinated piece of clarity, and a generous slice of skepticism, because you're going to need it. Because we're about to dig into the national buffet of sorrow and spin. And today, I warn you, it's no laughing matter, so stern face on. Now, while the headlines ran all through last week, Benue bleeds again. We here at News Central prefer to ask, why is Benue always bleeding? The massacre in Yelwata, over 150 lives erased in a breath. It's more than just another chapter in Nigeria's long-wearing book of violence. It's a symptom of a festering wound in the country's midriff. Central Nigeria has become the theater of a silent war, where climate pressure, land use tension, identity politics, and let's be honest, pain porn have been playing a deadly ping pong for over a decade. But here's the twist. Until we understand the real forces behind this bloodshed, until we put names and history to motive, all these reconciliation calls are like throwing paint on a cracked wall. It's just cosmetic and it's dead on arrival. But you can't reconcile two sides when you haven't even acknowledged the identities of these sides. Or worse, when you keep pretending it's just a disagreement among neighbors. I ask, which neighbors? Listen, let's talk about language. Because if there was ever a time for presidential diction to be tight, crisp, and unambiguous, now is that time. But President Tinubu has already gone and described the massacre as reprisal attack. Reprisal, okay. That's a very nice and tidy diplomatic way of saying, they had it coming. And Nigerians heard it. Well, they heard it loud, but not so clear. Because words matter in these instances. In conflicts like these, language is the difference between justice and gaslighting. For instance, genocide gets the international community involved. Terrorists triggers sanctions, arms bans, and maybe, just maybe, some actual foreign intelligence support. But reprisal, yeah, sounds like two teenagers fighting over who ate the last piece of meat in the cooking pot. So the question is, why does the villa always choose the softest possible word from the rack? Well, maybe calling it what it truly actually is attracts the kind of global scrutiny that gets uncomfortable very fast. It might force the system to stop playing ostrich, burying its head in the sand, and start playing leader, actual efforts. And frankly, it would seem no one is ready for that level of honesty and work. Meanwhile, the Catholic Bishop of Taragba has politely told Mr. President to go shove the condolences and do something practical. And honestly, he has a point. Because what do you tell the last surviving member of a family wiped out in their sleep? Hey, it's all going to be well, don't you worry. To be honest, the president did promise to turn the tragedy into prosperity. It's a noble sentiment, I agree, if not for the rather inconvenient fact that the people of Benue had to be massacred before prosperity even got penciled into the development agenda. The road to Yelwata, by the way, is still bad when it rains. That's just a side note. But seriously, ladies and gentlemen, why does it take carnage before action? Why does a part of Nigeria have to burn before a federal light bulb comes on? For those who've lost everything, what exactly are we offering in place of their homes, their livelihoods, and their lives? Condolences are fine, but Mr. President, respectfully, what about compensation? What about restitution? A working funding security presence? What about policies? See, we forget that Benue is actually the food basket of the nation. And if these things continue, we will have no food in that basket. And let's not forget, then there is Mr. Peter Obi stepping up with his now viral rebuke. The president failed to show empathy. Yes, Mr. Obi, that's the point. Thank you for pointing that bad roads prevented the physical visit of the president to Benue State, which is quite fair. But you see, Mr. Obi, sir, let's also be honest. Empathy alone on your part won't fix everything. Showing up is good optics. Making headlines with your comments keeps you in the polity. Let's agree, it would seem. But you know what would actually work better, sir? Showing up with actual solutions. That's the magic we're still waiting for. Full disclosure here, let me let you know. I'm an advocate for letting the presidency's efforts yield results. I love what Mr. President is trying to do for Nigeria. Maybe not the methods, but I think the efforts, they're good. And I think if we tried all else, or if we've tried everything else from across the opposition table, maybe it's time to try support. Because it's become a literal matter of life and death. So no politicizing of the matter here, please. And of course, NNPP wasn't going to let this moment go without losing, or rather tossing in their own pepper into the soup. They slammed the president's response as lukewarm. And we're forced to ask, is this a genuine concern, or is this the opposition finally waking up from political hibernation once again because now there's blood on the dance floor, the cameras are rolling, and Susie, we've got your number? It's hard to tell when empathy and optimism wear the same agbada, quite frankly. So look, I'm honestly not holding brief for the president. Heaven knows that the villa has enough press aides to do that, but I'm here to offer a very balanced plate. And that means asking the hard questions of everyone, including those who only find their voices when tragedy makes headlines. So to all those who are showing up at the party solutionless, here's looking at you with a side eye. Which brings us to the latest presidential directive: arrest the killers and, wait for it, set up a peace committee. Now, let's be real here. And here's the truth. It might get funny, but somewhere in the corridors of bureaucracy, someone just smiled, because committees, my dear brothers and sisters and friends in Nigeria, are Nigeria's favorite part-time employment scheme. There's always that one guy who hasn't chaired anything since Jonathan left office, and now, glory be to Allah, there's a new round table and maybe even a fresh SUV in the offing, so he's gonna take it. But here's the question yet again: what exactly will this committee do? Talk? Mediate? Draft peace charters while people continue to sleep with one eye open? Can we name these committee members, if you ask me? Can we check their track records or on past crises, not just anything? Show working here, here, and here, please. Because it isn't 2006 anymore. We've been here before. And if we're not careful, we'll still be here come 2027 with new names, or maybe even the same old ones. Same pain, same tears. And with that, as always, I say, well, a big hearty welcome to my partner in primetime provocations, Judith Atibi. Let's crack some eggs and make breakfast, shall we? Judith, welcome. Good to see you this morning.
Good to see you as well, Rosina. A very good morning to our viewers as well. As you said, it's time for us to serve us some provocation this morning.
Let's already. I'll join you now. We'll take a look at the dailies, and then we'll get into meat of things this morning. Welcome. It's Breakfast Extra.
And you're welcome once again. You're watching Breakfast Extra on News Central Television. As always, this morning on Breakfast Extra, we begin with the return of history, heritage, and long overdue justice. We start off in the Netherlands, as they have handed back 119 looted Benin bronzes to Nigeria, marking the largest single repatriation effort yet. We examine what this means for restitution, the politics of stolen artifacts, and how these returns can shift not only museum shelves, but national narratives. Then we shift focus to a fiscal fault line, as the Senate opens a probe into NNPCL over audit discrepancies, amounting to about 210 trillion naira. We break down the numbers, ask what accountability truly looks like in post-PIA Nigeria, and explore the economic and political implications of such monumental financial gaps. Next, we delve into the inner workings and possible unraveling of one of Nigeria's oldest political parties. INEC has rejected the PDP's NEC meeting notice over invalid signatures, triggering fresh questions about internal organizations' leadership control and what this means for the opposition's 2027 ambitions. And of course, we head from there to River State, the oil-rich state where the Nigerian Navy is once again flexing its enforcement muscle, destroying 5 illegal refining sites along the coastal waterways. But beyond the spectacle of fire and arrest, we ask, what deeper structural failures allow this economy of oil theft to persist, and what truly sustainable solutions exist for the Niger Delta? Still in the south, we head to Delta State, where hundreds of Ndukwa youths staged a peaceful protest over more than 25 years of total blackout. We explore the lived reality of life without power, assess the government response to the hashtag, or rather to the slogan, Light Up Ndukwa Nation protest, and question how development continues to sweep entire communities. And finally, on Wellness Central today, it's World Sickle Cell Day, but while the global spotlight shines on sickle cell, patients in Nigeria still struggle with the basics: access, affordability, and awareness. We examine what advocacy groups are doing, how policy needs to evolve, and what support survivors need beyond sympathy. As always, it's going to be a packed, but most importantly, powerful lineup today with real stories that got through heritage, politics, infrastructure, accountability, and of course, health. Again, welcome to Sunday's edition of Breakfast Xtra.
Morning and welcome once again. It's time for us to do the dailies, but not without me saying good morning to you in person here as we're sitting down to take a look at what the front pages has for us for a Sunday morning. And thank you for joining us once again. We'll go straight to it. Front page for this day newspaper, which will be our very first paper for this morning as we look at the dailies, has these headlines. Outage over killing someone in Borno, Kano, Kebbi, Plateau, Shetima, Muftuan condemn attacks. There's still more killings going on in Nigeria, not just the Middle Belt. This is also spanning into most of the North. 2027, the challenges, the men who could face President Tinubu. There's a, is this a collage, Judith? What do you call this now? It's a representation of everybody. And of course, right there, you can see our favorite, well, most people's favorites, not our favorite. But you have Atiku, you have Obi, you have Jonathan. Somebody put Jonathan back in there. Jonathan back in the running for things. Nasir El-Rufai. Now, Chibuike Amechi is a very interesting entry into this list. And I don't know what you think about Amechi as a contender for 2027. I'm not too sure, but there are considerations to be made there. At the very top for this day newspaper, Tinubu to West African leaders turn region's demographic strength, mineral wealth into jobs and industry. Very interesting. I think here's looking into the mirror.
I like the slogan they gave all of them at the bottom. Good luck, Jonathan, the reluctant candidate, Atiku Abubakar, waiting for the Marabout. Hopefully that's what's on there. Hopeful, then Peter Obi, hopeful candidate, Bukola Saraki on the sidelines. Then you have Rabiu Kwankwaso, challenger from Kano. Then Chibuike Amechi, table shaker. Nasir El-Rufai, disruptor. And then Ibrahim Shakaru, which is calm before the storm. Very interesting.
I love it. I didn't see it. Thank you for taking our attention there. What's my Jonathan? Good luck, Jonathan. Now the reluctant candidate. Indeed.
Yeah, because his wife has said it. Although he hasn't said it by himself, right? But his wife has sort of hinted that he isn't going to run for office. You know that they're all behind the renewed gender mandate.
Well, look at what happened the first time. Did he really want to be president? Well, what I mean is it had to take a death of a president for him to become president. So,
but he did win an election.
He did after that. My point is there is a certain nuance of reluctancy there's a certain nuance of reluctancy and good luck when it comes to good luck. He's always at the right place at the right time, even through his career as an academic staff and everything. Something had to happen for Jonathan to get into a place. I'll highlight I'll show it to you. It's well documented that good luck has a lot of good luck.
Yeah, well, maybe you should shine his good luck on Nigeria. Just saying.
Reluctantly, maybe.
There we go.
We've got other papers.
Let's move now from this day to Sunday Tribune. The very first one there, that big one there, the big the Black Weekend, many killed in suicide bombing explosion in Borno, Kano. You can find the story on pages 4 and 5. Errant youths killed 12 persons who missed their way to wedding ceremony in Plateau. 22 attackers arrested. At the bottom there, 2 prison officers suspended after a convicted prisoner was found processing international passport. You can find the story on page 4 as well. Kidnappers found guilty to die by hanging, says Ondo government. That story there is on page 5. Benue Massacre. We thought Yelwata was safe. Survivors recount ordeal in makeshift camp. We will go after Benue killers. That's from Kosa. You can find the story on page 9 and 4 of the Sunday Tribune.
All last week was all about bloodshed and tears.
Really Black Weekend, indeed.
It was absolutely. Let's move on now to the Sunday Times. Unfortunately, there's no better story there because it starts with this big headline here in rubrics: armed youths kill wedding-bound travelers in Plateau. I would really like to see the details to that story because that's a very worrying instance to think that that could happen on such a joyous occasion. At the bottom of the photo story, there, Zulum condemns Kundura terrorist attack, sympathizes with victims. Tinubu talons seal pact, rally echoers on unity. And Catherine Perez, Shekdam, the spy who wriggled through Iran's security web. Interesting, sounds like a very interesting book to read. Now, 70 million naira excavator theft, Lasma under fire. An entire excavator. And 67 Lagos drug outlets sealed by PCN. That's all the headlines for the Sunday Times. Doesn't look like much, but these are very interesting stories that I would like to personally read myself. What else do we have?
Yes. We move now to the Nation. There we are. That's it. The Nation there. Nation newspaper, the very big one there that comes at you. Federal government vows swift response as suicide bomber kills 24 in Borno. Shetima slams heinous act of terrorism against innocent civilians. Finally, they're using the word. says deploys more troops to strengthen security in North Central. You can find the story on page 4. Nigeria, Benin sign landmark integration pact. You can find that story on page 9. Pretty much all the major stories there for the Nation.
Okay. I think we're pretty much done with all the dailies for Nigeria. Am I correct?
Now, one more, Punch newspaper.
We've got the Punch newspaper. I'll take it. Sunday Punch newspaper here has this headline: 2027, Northern Power block eyes VP Shetima's seat. You can find this on page 3. With the rioters here, 6 governors, lawmakers jostle for VP's position. Zulum Ndume's anti-Tinubu comments haunting Shetima, say sources, and APC NWC divided over VP's return. At the very bottom, how Fulani herders killed our loved ones. Benue attack survivors. I think we had this guy on our report, if I'm not mistaken, the very guy. Nollywood actor Femi Branch battles assault debt accusation. To the side here, marketers raised petrol price to 955 naira per litre. It's been a while since we've heard anything from the marketers and the price increases. But welcome to a Sunday morning. It's up again by at least 55 naira in most cases. 59 die in Borno, Kano, Kebbi, Plateau attacks. And why I don't feel satisfied at 90. Gofamint, that's G-O-F-A-I-M-I-N-T, the General Overseer, Abina says. All the headlines there. Oh, I missed a couple at the very top for the Sunday Punch. Inside anti-coalition trouble search for mega party. Why SDP ADC adoption talks failed. And Ford offering God doesn't share booty with crooks. Can slams profits Fufei. Interesting. Does he though? Interesting
indeed. Switch away from the Sunday Punch. Pretty much all the papers we can take here on our turf for Nigeria. Pretty much it. We can take for the newspaper front pages here in Nigeria. We'll switch now to Kenya there for the Sunday Nation. Let's see if I can pull that up. There we go. At the top there, the pain of teachers stuck in same job group for years. You can find the story on page 7 of the Sunday Nation. The weekly review, God, Gold and Greed. Kamlesh Patin speaks. You can find the story on page 20 and page 21. Police shooting, victim of brutality during protest remains in critical condition. Families agony over shot son. This was following the a protest that broke out last year where about 63 Kenyans were shot. Please do not quote me on that number, yet to confirm. But about most of the protesters were youngsters, they were Gen Zs, and they were shot. And now the families are calling on the government to ask that the procession that should be held without any violence or escalation by the police. And the government is saying no to that. You can find this story and more on the front page of the Sunday Nation. And finally, for this one here, Ruto's tough new demands to his cabinet. Pretty much all the stories we can take for the Sunday Nation. Pretty much all we can take from away from this turf. We switch gears now, bringing you more stories, but this time pictorial picture editorials. There we go. From where we have the strips, and Mazino's on standby to give you that one.
It's always a jolly time when the strips come around. Welcome. Today we take a look at some of the strips that caught our attention from through the week last week, and we have some very interesting entries. And of course, as usual, I never do this by myself. We always have Judith the TB. Of course, you are my partner, so we have to do this together always. Are you ready though, Judith?
Yes, I am.
We've got some very interesting ones. Let's take our very first strip. I think our producer is just going to stick their hands into our really big pot. There we go. We've got this one. Interesting. So over the week, I followed the story, Iran, Israel. I don't know if you followed it as well. It's becoming very, very interesting. Only lately, I think, Israel has, or it's this time the U.S. has actually fired back at Iran. And by proxy, you might say, but it's called self-preservation. You can't have nuclear weapons, and nobody really trusts the Iranian players here. So everybody seems to think it might be a good shot, but wait until the coming week to see how this is going to go into very many other instances. Here in Nigeria, how it affects us. We see our president, I think that's who it is, however. Hey, we condemn your actions, ceasefire now, as all diplomatic comments will go. But behind him, Judith, you can see that we have our own problems. And it would seem that if you're going to remove the speck, the firewood from somebody else's eye, remove the speck from your own eye. It's a very worrying situation where we find ourselves in Nigeria with the central Nigeria bleeding as much as it has. But it's not the first time, I'd like to remind people. We keep talking about these instances, but they never go away. We're only just seeing this happen again this year. It happened last year. It happened the time from before. I don't know if you listened to the monologue that I gave from before. The one common thread running through all of these instances is identification. We never know who these people who are perpetrating these acts are. And if you can't find out exactly who it is, how are you going to solve the problem when you can't even talk to the players? That's my deduction. Judith, I don't know whether you have anything you want to add.
Well, I mean, mine is going to be on Iran and Israel and the U.S. and not necessarily, I mean, because we've, I mean, we do have our issues at shore, but I'm just going to say something, and that is that America is the only country that's ever used a nuclear weapon ever. Ever. In the history of humanity is America. There are no claims. We do not know for a fact that Iran has any nuclear weapon. Israel has been claiming that Iran has a nuclear weapon
every week
for 30 years and counting, and they still do not have nuclear weapons. So, you know, double standards, and we know that the call is coming from somebody's house, and it's clearly America.
While we're talking about Iran,
my visa.
While we're talking about Iran, let's remember Iraq and that they thought that there were nuclear weapons there, but they didn't find any.
Yeah, so they don't have any. You're just preemptively attacking somebody because you think the person will attack you.
Well, better to be safe, they say. In any case, we have our problems. Leave America and Israel and Iran. Now let's see our next strip this morning. Our next strip this morning is from Business Day, and I love their art. I actually called or sent a message to the artist here, and that's no other than Asuko. He hasn't responded, by the way. Mr. Asuko, please, can you respond? Interesting here. The presidency has commanded us to reconcile, so here is my handshake. This is a very worrying instance. There are so much grievances when it comes to whoever these parties are
That
they
is so
call
macabre.
warring parties. The president's reference to it as a reprisal attack is captured here because this is exactly what it would seem to be when you say reconcile without actually affecting the actual causes of these issues. Is it land grabbing? Is it farmer herder? Is it reprisal as it is? What kind of skirmish are they? Or has it gone beyond calling it a skirmish to full out say it's acts of terrorism, or use the words that could get international attention like genocide, for instance, like we've heard throughout the entire week? Many people have actually indicated that. Your take, Judith?
As you know, this is a very, I wish that, I want this on every newspaper, on every social media platforms. I need this picture to go viral because that's the only way that we can maybe get our politicians and our leaders and the ruling elite to sit up and see what is actually going on. And it really just paints what we have as an issue in Nigeria and with our ruling elite. This issue of reconciliation and peace talks and rehabilitation of terrorists.
Like, reconcile, tell them to reconcile.
You know, let's reconcile and you reintegrate them back into society when they are terrorists and they have taken lives and ruined communities and generations to come. Leave them with trauma. So I think that this should be here. It should be on every, I mean, this should go viral. I don't know why it's not. It should go viral everywhere. Everyone needs to see it so they can show exactly what they're pushing, because that's a problem. And it's even at the police. You go to a police station and say, solve the, let's
shake hands and be friends now.
Yeah, let's what do you mean, let's settle?
So it's our culture. That's
it's our culture.
It would seem.
And we need to stop. Yeah, please, he's begging you. It's okay. It's okay. But he's killing me.
There is such an instance in Rwanda, if you remember, since after the genocide there, where the parties were asked to reconcile. And
but they were also, the criminals of war also faced their time.
Now, I remember a documentary where this young lady wakes up every single morning to see her father's murderer under this reconciliation type instance. And I remember her telling how much pain it brought her. So if that is a normal human being, think about the collective now and how reconciliation might not actually be the best option to take.
Not true.
But we've got so much more. Let's take another one of our strips for this morning. I hope it's an exciting one. Guys, do me good. Let's see number 3. Boom. All right. This is Abulama from our Daily Trust. Let's go. Strange how I meant to feed the nation, but the nation can't provide me with affordable fertilizer and seeds to use. Let's add security there as well, because they can't. My brother, you need 3 days of prayers to afford these. Good seeds, good fertilizer, subsidy dealers. I'll tell you something about this. It's very close to my heart because it's something that we talked about while I was in school, studying biology, botany to be exact, of how they capitalize on modern technology and all of that, and also profit for the poor farmers who are supposed to be the very ones who feed Nigeria. And if you put insecurity into the mix here, I did tell inside of the monologue how Benue is the food basket of the nation, but currently nobody seems to want to be going to the farms because of fear. If this continues, we will not have any food in our basket anymore. And then you and I, here in Lagos, will start to feel the actual pinch of the instances of insurgency, banditry, terrorism, call it what it is.
I already feel it now. I mean, we already feel it. I've never said this on air, but my father's village shares a boundary like with Benue, because we're close to Benue, right? Although, luckily for us, Yelwata is on the other side, which is close to Nasarawa. But nonetheless, Benue is staring at the Sims, right? And so that only means that we pray it doesn't cross into. So just imagine how close it is, you know, the invisible strings, you know, and how it affects every single one of us. And again, my security guards, they're from Benue. When they saw the visuals and the videos, you know, so it's heart-wrenching, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's talking to them every single day, asking them, are you able to call your folks, how's it going? So yeah, there's 6 degrees of, again, I don't want to get into it, but it's hard.
I get you,
it's hard.
I get you. Well, Judith, that's as much as we can take for the strips. The producers have promptly taken away our last strip, indicating for me to get back with you so we can start our conversations for a Sunday morning. Stay with us. That's it for the strips this morning. It's still Breakfast Extra, and we're yet to even begin with our very first exciting conversation. We'll be back.
And welcome back. We get started with our biggest story for today. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, is once again in the eye of the storm, this time over troubling discrepancies in its audited financial statements. The Senate Committee on Public Accounts has opened an investigation into the company's books, citing over 210 trillion naira in unaccounted revenues across several fiscal years. According to the latest Punch report, the Auditor General's Office flagged extensive irregularities, including missing remittances and unauthorized deductions, prompting fresh questions about transparency, accountability, and corporate governance in Nigeria's most critical revenue-generating agency. The revelations have, at this point, sparked outrage across civil society and industry stakeholders alike, particularly given the NNPCL's recent transition to a commercial entity under the Petroleum Industry Act, PIA. Many had hoped this shift would usher in a new era of openness and professionalism. Instead, the current audit gaps not only threaten investor confidence, but also raise the specter of systemic rot within a company that accounts for the bulk of Nigeria's foreign earnings.
Yes, indeed. So to help us make sense of the numbers, the processes, and also possible consequences, we're joined by two expert gentlemen here. Biodun Shomi, a respected public affairs analyst with decades of experience. And of course, we also have Mr. NNPCL, an investment banker, executive and development economist, whose deep knowledge of fiscal management, public finance, and reform policy will provide critical insight into the matters here. Gentlemen, you're welcome. Thank you very much. Now, it's like,
Thank you. Good morning.
Judith, you know what we have here? These two experts? Okay, wait till the end. But let's get started. First off, gentlemen, let's start by asking an overview what you thought about the discrepancy, 210 trillion naira. How much of a dent, how much of a problem does that cause? Let me start with you, Mr. Albieri.
I'm not surprised, and I just chose to honor this invitation, just to, you know, we will keep on sounding like broken record. There's nothing that the Senate has revealed that is actually new. And 210 trillion, we are shouting as if we are outraged. Here in Nigeria, 2021, the former GMD of NNPC, Melekari, told us gleefully on Arise TV that annually we will lose over $22 billion of our crude resources to thievery and inefficiencies. And you discover clearly that in 2014, May 2015, if you look at the records, we are producing 2.4 million barrels of crude and condensate every day before 2015. From there, it nosed up to 1.1 million barrels. 210 trillion is nothing compared to the volume of criminality and monumental corruption at NNPC. Because if you multiply $22 billion by the 8 years of Buhari malfeasance and the larceny, it will give you an idea of what we're talking about here. But why is the Senate sounding, I was even shocked, why is the Senate sounding as if it's a new thing? The Senate has the power to right the wrong. The Senate has the power to set the record straight. The Senate has the power. It's not enough to just trigger Nigerians by saying, oh, 210 trillion naira discrepancies. I tell you today, if we want to reform NNPC to make it to become more productive, like the Petrobras that does $121 billion turnover every year, $36 billion profits every year, $44 billion taxes and revenues, taxes and the royalties to the Brazilian government, and then assets of over $174 billion. And NNPC is actually started before the Petrobras, bigger than Petrobras, but assets of $51 billion because we practically steal everything we produce in that sector. If we want to reform the NNPC to make it as productive as Petrobras, we know what to do. And a simple thing, unbundle that house of corruption. Look at what Brazilians did. They are not less corrupt than Nigerians, but the Brazilian government did the right thing. They knew that public sector corruption will continue to destroy their oil and gas sector. What they did was simple. They unbundled it, sold 72% of the shares of Petrobras to deep-pocketed private sector investors, about 4 groups, retained only 28%, overhauled the whole place and injected transparency and accountability, and they stopped the shenanigans that we are seeing in the Senate.
Okay, Mr. Albieri.
So we know what to do.
I like that you
wasting Nigeria's time.
I like that you touched on the reform angle of things, because that's where I wanted to go to, and I wanted Mr. Showomi's take on this now. We, in a way, well, not in a way, it was actual reform. I mean, it went commercial, and one would have thought that this would bring accountability to the NNPCL, but it doesn't seem to be the case. This didn't surprise you in any way, did it? Or what's your take on the entire issue, Mr. Showomi?
I think when you talk about corruption in NNPCL, there are very few Nigerians that will be surprised about that. Even Mr. President won't be surprised. We all know that NNPCL is part of the Nigerian conglomerates and owned by the public sector. And we all know, we all go to offices, even with civil servants, we know what we go through. So there's a measure of corruption going on everywhere within our country. The difference is that we have a high level of tolerance, for corruption. Everybody waits for their own opportunity. And I suspect that's partly what my brother is alluding to. But I carefully look at the Senate and I bear in mind the House of Representatives grilling of Otedola, which led Lawan Farouk into trouble. We exactly go the same way. Because when you look at this issue, the first thing that will shock you is the level of unreconciled income and expenditure. You're talking of 210 trillion. But we have the Senate committee, the House of Reps committee, to carry out oversight functions on a year-on-year basis. How did they allow you to get here? We should first ask them this very question. What were they doing? Were they sleeping? Because this is not a product of 1 year, 2015 or 2017 to 2021. I mean, were they sleeping? So what were they doing during that period? Why is it that they didn't pick up these issues, even without the auditors picking them up? So what were their duty when they talk about oversight functions during that period? That is the first problem. The second problem is dispassionately look at the issues they are raising. Some of them, I begin to ask myself about the quality of people representing us. For instance, there is the issue of NAPIMS. The NAPIMS needed 9 trillion naira. NNPC ended up with over about 67 billion debt that could a subsidiary, make 9 trillion naira profit only for NNPCL to be in deficit, as if they are not aware of the issues around fuel subsidy regime over that period, because they actually needed to give us the figures and explain how that happened. They didn't focus on that. Another thing which I also noticed is their basic understanding of how accrual accounting works. Because NNPC is practicing accrual accounting, not cash accounting. In accrual accounting, you are allowed to accrue for expenses, and also your income will become income receivable. Over a period of time, this has to be resolved, before you can classify it as bad debt or money that actually came in. Now, what you see is they are raising issues around, why did they sign off the account? When they know they're still in the process of reconciling it, then they do not understand accrual accounting. And there is also law in this country. Auditors, auditor statements, there's a deadline for submission. You cannot miss it. What auditors can do is to qualify that account. They will qualify that account, and then in subsequent report, they will address all those issues. So for me, raising the issue, why did the board, approve the account when it was under reconciliation, shows that probably they do not understand accrual accounting. Maybe they are thinking about catch accounting.
In summary, you're saying these work in tandem. They happen at the same time, accrual accounting.
No, I'm looking at the competence of those who are representing us, carrying out the oversight function. Yeah. Right, it's quite very important. Otherwise, you will never get to the end of this, and before you know it, some other things have exchanged hands, and then the issue will die away.
Right. So oversight committee, auditors, then that means if this was a publicly traded company, right? Because this is Commonwealth, right? If this was a publicly traded company, it's most likely going to be penalties and sanctions. How come we're not seeing that?
Okay, let me come in here. You see, there is this erroneous belief that that we attach limited NNPC does not actually mean that it's operating like a limited liability company with corporate governance in place. NNPC is just a glorified corrupt entity within the public sector with LTD attached to it. NNPC is owned by Ministry of Finance Incorporated and Ministry of Petroleum Incorporated, and these are public sector groups, and the same corruption, like you mentioned, are still there. I'll give you an example. The Nigerian liquefied natural gas is an entity that has consistently over the last 18 years paid dividends to Nigeria. It's owned 51% by the private sector group, Total, Shell, and the rest of them, and 49% by the NNPC or member of the federal government of Nigeria. You will never see the MD of Nigerian Natural Gas going to Senate or House of Rep to be grilled or this, because there's an efficient board in place, corporate governance in place, recruitment, everything. In fact, the Nigerian Natural Gas is not even performing up to 65% of its nameplate capacity because of inefficiency at NNPC, inability to supply them with the natural gas they need to blend their trains. The truth is, we know what to do. I get angry whenever I see these shenanigans in the Senate. It's right, and most of them don't even have the competencies to actually oversight NNPC, because if you see the issues they are raising, it clearly shows lack of understanding. All these gragra they are doing just to see how these guys can come and settle them and everything settle down. If we want to do the right thing, NNPC, the Senate and the rep has the powers. We will unbundle NNPC. Petrobras did it. Emirates Oil did it. Even Aramco did it. Aramco at the time had to do IPO. And they say they want to go and list on the floor of the exchange. If they are listed on the floor of the exchange with Minister of Finance and I want to invest. Like no same investor that will put his money there. The only way they will do this, it will work. Very simple. And I will bear the people again. Privatize NNPC. Sell 30% of the shareholding of the federal government to 3 core investors, preferably local investors. Sell 40% to Nigerians, both in at home and in diaspora. List it on the floor of the exchange. If we have 70% of the shareholding of NNPC in the hands of private sector investors, 3 core deep-pocketed technical capital investors, and the 40% Nigerians, and shield it from this normal shenanigans at the National Assembly, I bet you in 1 year, Nigeria has crude oil reserve of 37.5 billion barrels. Proven reserve. Brazil only 15 billion barrels. Brazil does 2.3 million barrels consistently every day by Petrobras. Brazil does annual turnover of $121 billion. Brazil and Petrobras has an asset value of $171 billion. Annually, they record $36 billion profit. They paid the government $6 billion dividend. They paid $44 billion annually as tax and royalties. This side of NNPC, there was a time in this country they were limiting 3.5 billion barrels and $1 billion into the federation account. That was why it was easy for NFLA, despite the shenanigans with Buhari, to be able to even maintain Naira at where it was. That was why it was easy for Sanusi to defend the Naira. Right. But under Buhari, the thing came down from $3.5 billion to less than $1 billion. And we're not asking questions. And remember, even when we talked about subsidy was paid 100% between 2010 to 2015. Buhari moved the petroleum price from 87 to 145 to even to 600. Yet we don't have money remitted into it. And the yet we are there. They saw the number came down from $3.5 billion to less than $1 billion. It never occurred to them that there are a lot of holes and criminality going on there. Right. If these guys are sincere, by now, if a person is being prosecuted for 10% of corruption, Meleki and some of the guys there should be facing times 10 what the person is facing.
Yeah.
And we don't the guy is busy resting somewhere.
Right, because I said the same thing that he was being...
With this
Doctor, I have to ask you, right, because now this is Commonwealth, like I said earlier. This is the Commonwealth of Nigerians. Whether or not it's publicly traded or it's LTD, one thing is certain. If foreign direct investment is slowly dwindling, right, or non-existent at this point, and our budget is pegged on the revenues that will come out from NNPCL. When we're looking at a deficit such as this, or a discrepancy such as this, it begs to ask the question how we look for foreign direct investment.
The truth that I've said it to anybody who cares to listen. We don't need the white man or anybody bringing investments.
If you summarize that, because I really want to hear Mr.
I said this. I'm an investment banker, and I was privileged between 2007 and 2010 to work with Nigerians in diaspora. Neither Africa, neither Europe, neither America. And I can tell you something that will shock you. We can easily attract $50 to $100 billion investments from Nigerians in diaspora into Nigeria, into the critical sector of our economy, oil and gas to be precise. But we need to put in place transparency and accountability within that system. We need to unbundle the NNPC. Let me tell you, if the federal government is sincere, if the Senate, they are sincere, and they apply the Petrobras principle, the Emirates Oil principle, even the Aramco principle, and do the same thing we did with Nigerian Natural Gas. If we decide today to do an IPO of $20 billion, and they do offer for sale of 70% of the shareholding of the Federal Ministry of Finance and Petroleum Ministry, which is the NNPCL valued about $51 billion, undervalued. If we decide to do it today, we will unlock over 40 to 50 billion into this economy, and I'll tell you it will be oversubscribed. But as long as there are no transparency, there are no accountability, most investors, both foreign and local, will not invest. Ask yourself this question. How did we get down from, if you look at CBN records, in August 2010, we are doing 2.8 million barrels of crude and condensate every day. Did the oil wells dry? New investment did not come in. Why are the likes of Shell, Total, Chevron going to Angola, going to Cote d'Ivoire, not coming to Nigeria where we have the biggest population, the biggest reserve, the biggest resources? And because they know the truth, it's because inefficiencies and corruption, and we don't want to do the right thing.
Just a second, Mr. Shobi, did you have any addition to add?
Yeah, I do. I think what we need to focus on is quite very clear to me. Look, by 2015 we were doing 2.2 million barrels a day. Now between the reference period for this very report, the production declined, from 2 million barrels a day or 2.2 at times, down to as low as 800,000 at a point. Now, I have listened to the argument. I read the argument of the Chief Financial Officer of NNPC, and I must say that he's new in office, so there's no doubt about that. But he linked this 210 trillion naira to issue of joint venture calls, that is 1.3 trillion, 103 trillion, on expenses, and 107 trillion, on income receivable, leaving a balance of, if you're able to reconcile it, of about 7 trillion naira. But the issue is this: if you have expended 103 trillion, on joint venture calls, why was our oil declining during that period? Why is it that the oil is not going up, production is not going up? It's quite very important. We need to know what happened to the oil, because joint venture call, what it simply means is NNPC has a certain percentage, to contribute, and the multinationals or the oil majors would also contribute their own part, and you both invest it. So what happened to the outcome of that investment? Is it that we didn't get any oil from it, and we kept throwing in money to the extent that we expended 103 trillion, of our country resources on that, only to end up with low production? Still, we are yet to recover till now, and we're still being told they are reconciling this account. It's not just about the figures, it's also about the expected output.
Before we run out of time, now I know Mr. Obiari has told plenty about how this could be solved, but when it comes to restitution, what advice do you have? Do you think that, first of all, we've lost this 210 trillion, there's nothing we can do about that? Whether it's recoverable or not, that's a dead-end question. But how can we plug these gaps that we're seeing in the system currently?
Obviously, the NNPC financial system seems to be faulty. There's no doubt about that. Number two, NNPC is yet to be fully a limited liability company. So, therefore, the boards are still being appointed, both for the subsidiary and the main parent company, by the federal government. So, therefore, they still have this public sector mentality rather than the private sector mentality. Dr. Odameka has already spoken a lot about what can be done, to save the situation. But before that, before the solution, I also will advocate for a forensic audit of NNPCL, Jimobazi type of forensic analysis, so that those who are responsible for any misdemeanor or any financial infractions within the NNPCL will not simply walk away and live in luxury while the rest of us, the whole country, is suffering the pains of their actions. So the fact of the matter is, this issue should not just be left with the Senate. We need a full audit of NNPC itself, a forensic audit of NNPCL. It's not enough to tell us that, look, we have reconciled the account, the figures. What about the output expected from the joint ventures? Where did it go? It's important.
Right. I mean, it's also very clear here that one of the arms of government who have for a long time has turned a blind eye to this whole thing is the Senate as well, right? Because if there's an oversight committee, clearly there's an oversight committee on the Senate on oil and gas. If these auditors are coming out, they should flag, you know, the NNPCL, whether it's their board of directors or the person, the MD or CEO in charge, to come and face the Senate, because this is a Commonwealth issue. If you're telling Nigerians that 210 trillion naira is missing, one thing is certain, you know, the box has to stop somewhere, and somebody has to hold everybody accountable, and it has to be the Senate, right? But I mean, gentlemen, I must say thank you. Just very quickly before we go, your final remarks, very quickly. I'll start with you, Doctor.
Oh, my final remark is very simple. We know what to do. All these things you see Senate inviting them, giving them 1 week, let me tell you, something will go under the radar, and they'll be settled, everybody will be okay, and the rot continues. We know what to do. Go the Petrobras route, onboard NNPC, do public offerings, 70% of the federal government holding NNPC, 30% to 3 identify core investors with technical and financial capacity, 40% to Nigerians, do IPO of $50 billion. That, first of all, will lock about 45-50 billion into the national treasury that will help us to achieve exchange and price stability in the longer term. And then list on the floor of the exchange. If you do this and introduce corporate governance, shield it from public sector shenanigans like we are seeing in Senate, and make it function like Petrobras, like Nigerian liquefied natural gas, I tell you, in the next one, you will look back and you wonder, where did this?
I wonder, because Nigeria there's always a problem with Nigeria. Nigeria always happens. I wonder if that can actually work. And I wish there's enough time for us to, you know, poke holes at this theory.
As president, I will do it within 6 months.
There you go. Very quickly,
Align broadly with Dr. Nemeka's submission.
Right.
There's no doubt we need to go Aramco, Petrobras ways, and that's exactly what, you know, drove the transformation of NNPC to NNPCL, you know, in the PIA passed in 2021.
Right.
So we have not fully implemented it. So you begin to ask yourself, 2021 to 2025, why would it take 4 years to transform NNPCL?
Right, gentlemen, I must say thank you. Mr. Biodun Showemi, he's a respected public affairs analyst, as well as Dr. Nemeka Obiariri. He is an investment banker, banking executive, and development economist. Gentlemen, thank you once again.
I just want to say I would hate to be in a class debating team with the two of you if we ever were in class together. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Do stay tuned. We've got more conversation coming your way. It's still Breakfast Extra. We'll be back. It's the top of the 9 o'clock hour. Let's bring you the breakfast headlines. My name is Mazino Appeal. Now we begin with security matters. Tragedy struck in Kano on Saturday as a powerful explosion rocked the local community, killing at least 5 people. Authorities believe the blast may have been caused by military-grade equipment in transit. Kano State Commissioner of Police Ibrahim Bakori, who visited the scene shortly after the incident, said the blast is believed to have come from military ordnance that may have been mishandled or improperly transported. According to primary investigations, the explosive was being moved by a trailer from Yobe State. However, it remains unclear whether the vehicle was operated by military personnel or contractors.
What actually happened with regards to the news we had regarding the explosion?
In the morning, I received an information from DPO Mariri that there is an explosive at Gidan Karfi in his area of jurisdiction. So I rushed to the place, and I met 15 people injured. They were rushed to the hospital, Mala Aminu Kano Teach Hospital, where I met the doctor confirmed 5 dead and 10 are receiving treatment.
So far, what are your findings with regards to the vehicle, where it is coming from, and other things?
When I arrived at the scene, it was restricted. So our EOD personnel are there working. But the information I received, the problem information I received is that the vehicle came from Yobe State. So one of the explosive one exploded, and now they have recovered 7.
What sort of explosive devices are these?
It is suspected to be this mortal explosive, mortal bomb.
Well, is it a common knowledge? Is it a common thing to have within scraps? explosive of that nature, sir?
You know, scavengers you normally pick from those bin, waste bin, and other things from all over. So maybe they have just picked it from somewhere and they brought it with the truck to Kano, to the factory where they normally upload it.
Having known where Yobe State is and how sensitive that area is in terms of insurgency, is there a possibility of it being scraps from maybe insurgency?
For now, I cannot say it because the case is under investigation.
Meanwhile, at least 12 people have reportedly been killed and 17 others injured after a female suicide bomber attacked a local food joint in Kunduga, LGA of Borno State. It was gathered that the incident occurred at about 10 p.m. on Friday, leaving several others injured severely. Police sources said the attacker detonated the IED at the food joint. A joint security team comprising military and police officers, civilian joint task force, and local hunters has reportedly visited the scene of the bombing.
Beladro, Dasawa, Belada, Tamazar, Rukata, Belada, Rukata, Belada, and the Watalaga, Security, Sahara, Andero, Kurusa Yar Kalang, Tara, Uza, Au, Kumangawa, Samago Kuruna, Yar Chekalachanga, and Duko, Urukarami, and the one Yan, the Awan, Lawan, former Biska Kaji and the Quata was and yet Minti Piak for the Ausmasha. Sawan da zoro sawan litige karu kutta sedan je fulena anja sha bunin ko sunu ke babu ka bunin maro na fadin karero ki kurun chulan wa awru annara kunge awda sha chondo to mara wa karu ni.
Now, staying in Borno State more than 10 years after they were forced from their homes by the Boko Haram insurgency, displaced residents of Ashigashia town in Borno State say they are ready to return and resume farming before the next planting season. The decision was made during a community dialogue held in Maiduguri, bringing together members of the Ashigashia and Kirawa communities, as well as Senator Ali Ndume, who represents southern Borno in the Senate, I beg your pardon. And News Central's Umaru Kirawa here has the story.
Deserted since 2014, Ashigashia remains a ghost town in Borno State, a shadow of the thriving agrarian community it once was. Once a leading producer of cash crops, its people now live in limbo, struggling to survive in displacement.
We have agreed as a community under his chairmanship, that is distinguished Senator Ali Ndume, that we should, as a matter of priority and a must, that we should go back home.
duk sun kana skitar na zallava baka na zallava skitar bushaha mun baka zingre ko kim da baka na zallava zitarna yo an tarar da bai agza kuba na zinni na zazare nan tar na zaharda mu kemala gwamnati ne gwamnati ne ne wayar waya.
At a joint dialogue in Maiduguri with residents of Kirawa and Senator Ali Ndume, leaders voiced their determination to return home, encouraged by the relative stability that has returned to the region.
Kirawa had been settled for the last 3 years. What we need now is expansion. Our people need to expand. We need houses.
We are calling for our people to come and support our dear ward, Ashigashia and Kirawa.
We are requesting government to build or renovate the hospital completely. We are still appealing to government to at least build or construct international market.
The meeting served not just as a declaration of intent, but as a call for urgent government and humanitarian support to make the return possible.
I want to use this opportunity to any philanthropist or any supporter or any sympathizer to help our people resettle. Especially, we don't need money that much. If we can have building materials. Because if you see the economic activities that is going on, because that's a major economic artery, between Nigeria and Cameroon especially. Kirawa used to be a bigger link to Cameroon than Banki Town.
Ndume pledged full backing for the resettlement, promising to engage with security agencies to ensure the area is safe enough for people to return. Now, the people of Ashigashia wait with hope and resolve for the moment they can finally go home and rebuild what was lost. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
And that's all the breakfast headlines we can take at the moment. Do stay tuned because Breakfast Extra continues.
And welcome back. It's time for us to get on to our big story, the very first for this hour. The Nigerian Navy has once again launched a coordinated offensive against oil thieves in the Niger Delta, destroying 5 illegal refining sites in River State, according to reports from the forward operating base Bonny. The raids were carried out along Bolo and Idama waterways in the state's coastal axis. And now, several large metal tanks, industrial ovens, and pumping machines, as well as sacks of illegally refined crude, were destroyed in the operation. The Navy says this is part of sustained efforts to curb oil theft and environmental degradation, 2 crimes that continue to sap Nigeria's economy and poison its fragile ecosystems. Now, despite the success of these raids, critics argue that the destruction of illegal refining sites often ignores deeper structural issues: chronic poverty, environmental injustice, and the absence of legal economic alternatives for host economies or host communities. Now, while security forces claim success, many locals say these operations as temporary relief that does little to address the long-standing socio-economic root causes of oil bunkering. At the heart of the issue lies a tension between security enforcement and development neglect.
So to help unpack the media narratives, of course, the public perception and the strategic implications of the operation, we're joined by Dr. Ibituru Pepple, lecturer at Federal University, Otuoke, Bios State Department, Journalism and Media Studies. You're welcome, sir. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pepple. Doctor, how do you interpret the Navy's continued destruction of illegal refining sites? Is it, necessary enforcement? Is this where our leakage is actually? How much of a dent does this do for their illegal operations?
Okay, I think one, we should go away from destructions. Now, to be sincere, the security agencies know about the operations of these syndicates. It is not just an operation that is done by locals. It is a syndicated body by experts and some persons within various sectors and individuals. When such sites are being discovered, the best thing is to take hold of that site, that is to confiscate the things there and know what next to do, either to send it to experts in the oil industry to be able to take it and then know what to do, either to go refine it themselves or into anything they want to do, but not actual destruction where they go to, they usually burn it and then it goes into the waters, destroying the aquatic life and then the entire ecosystem. So I think the Navy destroying sites is not the best. Mm-hmm. They should have experts among them that to see what is happening there. They are burning it. They usually will blow off the vessel. And then everything will now go down into the sea, which is not the right thing to do. They should have experts that will be able to coordinate these activities. And then, of course, it will help to preserve the environment.
Right. Now, I mean, Doctor, critics have said that, that these refining sites don't spring up overnight, right? So there must be intelligence at this point. What does their continued existence tell about the coordination or intelligence of security forces when it comes to our oil-rich Niger Delta?
Let me be sincere to you. Oil activities, especially oil bombing in the Niger Delta, started with some coordinated attacks when some locals within the community felt they are not being carried along. Certain things that should be done for them are not being done. And then the persons that are being asked to go in and at least help fix things, that is, security agents, are not doing what they should do. Rather, they are part of the decay. Security agents are also part of the coordinated attack, because rather than to pull the people out from guiding those pipelines and ensuring that people do not vandalize them, they aid the vandalism.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember, there was a time Tom Polo was talking, and he said the people who are into these things are military personnel. And so let's look at where people are guiding this pipeline. They're being paid to guide it. Of course, security personnel. And at the end of the day, people still gain access to these things. And then these sites are not just being set up within a day. They take months and years to set up a site. You see that if you are flying across with chopper or helicopter along the Niger Delta regions, you will see these sites inside. You will see these sites inside the creeks. From the air, you see these sites. Do they mean that they cannot take charge of it? That's a question.
It's a very interesting question.
Are they saying that we don't have? Yes. Are they saying that we don't have intelligence reports? That's another question. Or do they lack equipment with which they could be able to track these sites? These are questions. We keep asking questions and questions.
Okay. Dr. Pepple.
I'm from Bonny. Yes.
Now, Dr. Pepple, there's a very interesting series of challenges here that you've noted from your very first entry. You talk about the degradation of the environment, which is a very big concern, and to note that the authorities are not putting this into consideration when they destroy these bunkering sites. You've also talked about the complicity of the authorities themselves. I think last year, investigative journalist Fisar Shoyombo was arrested, and he claimed that his arrest was under the guise of, well, the authorities trying to do their job, but he says that they were trying to cover up some illegal findings that he uncovered. Since then up until now, 5 of these sites have been destroyed from the dailies, as we can read. Are we saying that perhaps maybe the authorities have woken up to their responsibility and are destroying these illegal refinery sites? If that is so, 5 sites, is that a good number? Because from your description, you're telling us that there are numerous of these facilities, illegal facilities. So I'm kind of like wondering whether 5 is a good number to celebrate.
Not really. You see, let me tell you, the creeks are very vast. When you come to the riverine environment, the creeks are very vast. You find out that these security agents, especially the Navy and the police, they already know this terrain. They have involvement. Let us not deceive ourselves. If actually the government wants to do something, because there is this lack of political will to do anything, the people talking about it, no, because the people involved are very powerful individuals. They are very powerful individuals. They are not people like me. They are not the fishermen fishing along the creeks. They are people who pull their resources from very high authoritative area. There are people who have international dealings involved with some national syndicates. I won't call local. And so it is well organized. Mm-hmm. And so when they come to tell you that, oh, have been able to confiscate 5 illegal bunkering sites when there are many more inside the creeks. It will take nothing for a jet or whatever to go around the area, and then we take a fee of the sites, and then they could do something by not just going to bomb, because bombing is not the best. Destruction by burning is not the best. What they will do is to have a group of experts from the oil industry going there and either taking over that place and knowing how to evacuate those products within a space of time, and not doing what I see as eye service.
And Dr. Peppo, for most of these communities that engage in these illegal activities, for them it's kind of like the last resort. They have nothing else to do. Are there solutions, sustainable solutions, maybe policies that could help provide economic alternative for these communities? Are these destruction of these sites helping the community in any way or putting them even deeper into strife?
No, they don't put them into deeper economic problems, because their aquatic life is destroyed. Their farms are destroyed, because these products, when destroyed in that manner, they do it because it is not with any specific, experts way of doing it, expert method. They just go in, just blow it, and it goes into the waters and into their farmlands and causing more economic hardship. Now, I believe that if the petroleum industry law that has been passed is taken into cognizance, when the letters of it and the dictates are being looked into, some locals will not want to be involved because they will be carried along. But what is there is that in Nigeria, laws are made, not implemented. And so it's only you hear about experts coming to talk about it, the benefits and so on. But the people that are directly involved and affected do not in any way benefit. You see that the people suffer. And then when they're already lacking, when they're in need, when they do not have access to livelihood, when the environment has been destroyed, what do you expect of them? Sometimes they find themselves going into join with this person because it's within the environment they come to perpetrate this evil act. And so they will join them, sometimes to get some peanuts, not necessarily that they are having like this, to be able to help their livelihood. So that's the situation on ground. And so even the oil companies operating within the environment do not carry these locals along in what is expected of them to get. And so when the only source is getting into the oil companies, which is not possible, and what would they do? And wanting to survive, they go into this illegal bunkering on their own too. And know that locals cannot go and bust pipelines to drill oils. They need experts who themselves organize. They help to pierce it, and then they'll be able to get what they want alongside those other experts. So it's an organized, syndicated activity.
Now, you say it's an organized, syndicated activity.
Are you with me?
Yes, of course. Now, from time memorial, for as long as we remember, as long as the oil was found in the Niger Delta, whether it was Bayelsa or River State, oil bunkering has become somewhat of a way of life, for certain individuals in that part of the region. And so it's a long-term issue, it's a long-age issue in the Niger Delta. And when you look at the environmental degradation, then it means that also the locals are sort of also adding or aiding at this point to the environmental degradation that we're seeing in the Niger Delta. But specifically, this...
Not the technology to drill that and go into it. That's what I'm trying to tell you, that is an organized, syndicated criminal activity.
Right.
The locals cannot.
Right. So if you're saying... Right. So if you're saying that the locals cannot do it, the locals do, of course, may know where these locations are. 5 out of, I don't know how many, that's scattered across rivers and, of course, Bayelsa as well. And so it begs to ask the question about the syndicates itself. A long-age problem of bunkering that affects the nerve in terms of revenue for the country, Commonwealth. How can we solve it, a long-lasting solution to the oil bunkering, illegal oil bunkering in the Niger Delta, holistically?
It's just political will. The government lacks the political will to execute it.
Is it political will
really
or
want this thing to stop?
Right?
To stop.
Right. So
time.
I have to ask at this point.
It's the government.
I'm glad you're saying political will, because it begs to ask the question: is it political will or the lack of developmental mandate for the Niger Delta? Because we're supposed to clean up the oils, the communities were supposed to benefit. I mean, if the Commonwealth of Nigeria is coming out from the Niger Delta, it's supposed to be as developed as possible. You know, clean roads, hoping to be maybe a small Dubai at this point. But it is as impoverished as can be, in spite of the fact that the roads or the creeks flow with milk and honey, black gold. And so, is it political will or just neglect, developmental neglect on the Niger Delta?
No, another case in point. If you want to talk about the developmental will, it's another one. Political will to curb this vandalism. People are benefiting. Now, when people are benefiting, it is difficult for you to stop them, especially when the people that are supposed to curb this illegality are part of the illegality. How then do you get results? And of course, development is by the way. If government wants to do a thing, government will do it. But when government does not have that will to do it, it remains the way it is. Now let's look, in the early 70s, we are not having such stories. In the early 80s, little or none. It was more of some organized big boys from within Lagos at that time, not Abuja. Then within the 2000, then we had well-organized bunkering activity. Individuals and some military forces joined hands in collaboration to perpetrate this act. So how would you, the locals, fight people with arms? Because the more they sell the oil, the more they equip themselves with arms. And when somebody is armed, very sophisticated weapons, how would you, as a local, fight such a people? Of course you cannot. Rather, they said if you can't beat them, it's yourself joining them. And that is what is happening.
Very unfortunate.
Because some persons within the community also would want to survive. And that's a survival strategy because of poor economic network.
And so it's back to that developmental neglect that we talked about, right? Because if you're saying that, you know, survival is at the heart of this, the Niger Delta have been neglected, you know, thanks to the president. The Ogoni 9 has just been recognized for their hard work and for their call of the cleanup in the Ogoni and the Niger Delta, but still the problem persists. Rehabilitative intervention, what would it look like for the Niger Delta?
Of course, rehabilitation, every day they're talking about it, or how the remediation efforts going on in Ogoni with high prep. The question is, what is happening? You are remediating, you are trying to clean up, and they are still busting pipelines every other day. They are still blowing. The military, without expertise, are also destroying more bunkering sites, causing more pollution and degrading the environment further. So what do you think? We are going around a vicious circle. There is need for stakeholders and every other person, the locals, to come together and think of a solution to this. It's not by blowing facilities or that will help. It is causing, look at the smoke there from the boats. It's also causing health pollution and health hazards. And then the waters, the aquatic life. You can't fish again in the Niger Delta. And then People who farm also suffer because they cannot have yields from their farms. So what do you think? It's a vicious cycle.
Dr. Pepple.
That's where government comes in.
All right,
what
Dr.
people want to do.
So thank you very much for that suggestion.
Thank you.
It's a stakeholders matter. People need to come together,
yes.
The authorities, the people themselves, to help find a solution to these problems in the Niger Delta. Thank you for joining us inside our middle hour here for this conversation. We do have other conversations coming up, and we're asking our viewers to do stay tuned. There's still all this extra before the end of the show, but there's much more even in between. Stay tuned. So, time to rest here for Breakfast Extra this Sunday because we have to pack in all the stories. Now, it's time for another big story. Nigeria's opposition politics is once again in the spotlight as the Independent National Electoral Commission has rejected a notice of the People's Democratic Party's planned National Executive Committee meeting, citing irregularities in the signatures accompanying the submission. Now, according to INEC, the signatures attached to this notice were either invalid or failed to meet legal thresholds, rendering the planned gathering procedurally flawed. This decision, made public in a letter dated 19th of June, has triggered internal panic with the PDP ranks, especially as the party tries to find its footing ahead of the next electoral cycle. Now, this latest twist adds to a growing list of internal fractures bedeviling the PDP, already grappling with zoning disputes, defection waves, and also conflicting leadership structure. Party insiders say the rejected notice was a key step toward resolving some of these long-standing issues. And INEC's dismissal not only stalls progress, but risks deepening the internal crisis. Critics argue still, it also reflects poorly on the PDP's internal documentation and organizational readiness, a major concern for a party looking to rebuild trust among voters and also reclaim national relevance.
So joining us now is Arthur Ugochukwu. He's the Zonal Secretary of the PDP in Imo State. He's going to help us unpack what this means for the party, what led to the signature controversy, and how the PDP plans to manage the fallout from INEC's decision. Mr. Ugochukwu, I want to say thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having me this morning.
All right. Let's start with clarity, shall we? What exactly was the nature of the signature irregularity, and who within the PDP bears responsibility for that procedural lapse that we saw?
Oh yeah, thank you very much. Let me put this very straight from the PDP Constitution. I think that will enable us. Section 36 of PDP Constitution says about the position of the National Secretary. There shall be a National Secretary who shall be the Chief Administrative and Accounting Officer of the party, whose functions shall be A, supervise the day-to-day activities of the party, B, conduct or direct the conduct of correspondences of the party and cause to be issued notices of meetings of the National Convention, National Executive Committee, National Caucus, and the National Working Committee. I read that again, Part B of the Section 36 of the PDP Constitution. B, conduct or direct the conduct of the correspondence of the party, cause to be issued notices of meetings of the National Convention, National Executive Committee, the National Caucus, and the National Working Committee. This is an extract from the PDP Constitution. So this is majorly the function of the National Secretary. But as you can see, the People's Democratic Party, for the close to a year plus now, has been in the debacle of the National Secretaryship position. So INEC, as the responsible organization, as the organization that oversees the conduct of parties, INEC does not just conduct election and allow them to go. Part of the processes of conducting the free and fair election is the conduct of the party itself. So it regulates the activities of the party as well. So if you come to INEC's 2022 INEC regulations and guidelines for political parties, it requires notices of convention, congresses, and conferences of meetings. It shall be jointly signed by the national chairman and the national secretary. So INEC drew their conclusion, number one, from the, let me use the word malpractice, from the part of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP. So they failed in their own parts in doing the right thing. And if INEC had gone ahead to accept the letter only signed by the national chairman, it means that the party has doomed itself. Because you cannot fail or in your own responsibility, fail what you're supposed to do and expect it to stand. Like I always say, you cannot build nothing or something. So going forward, there is a Supreme Court judgment about the position of national secretaryship. INEC had gotten the judgment of that Supreme Court, which validly states that INEC remains the national secretary of the party. That the only way to remove Senator Samuel INEC as the national secretary of the party is via a convention. That is to say, he continues his functions as the national secretary. He must sign or co-sign notices from the party in these particular sections that I've listed above. So the letter that was sent to INEC was only signed by the acting national chairman, Ambassador Omar Iliademago. So it would be an aberration, it would be a total flop on the part of INEC if they had accepted that letter only and acted on it. They have also failed in their duty as a regulating body. So that is why the letter signed by Ambassador Iliademago was rejected by the INEC, the regulating body of the party. So that is the true clarification of things in this email.
Arthur, thank you very much. You put it so nicely. It's very clear how you have put it. However, with all the activities that we've seen over the past 1 year from inside of the PDP and this error coming up here, you noting that IAO never actually signed this, it was only signed, it wasn't co-signed by him. What's this reflecting about the opposition here, the biggest opposition to the current administration, the PDP? Is it reflecting that there are deeper divisions or maybe even communication breakdowns inside of the party? I guess I'm asking a very obvious question here, but I'd like to get your take.
Yes, thank you. Well, it can be understood in different perspectives. Well, as you are aware, some members of the party are already, like the former candidate of our party, like the Sickle Cell Awareness, was among the leaders that joined the new party they want to register, which I doubt if that will see the light of the day. So it's not actually a true reflection of division here, if you can say that. But what is there is that we have come to put the party in the right perspective. I was on air the other time and I said that the national secretary of the party must be commended by all lovers of democracy. It must be commended by all lovers of it, especially youth like us, emerging leaders like us in the party. Because if Anyamo had, at a point, succumbed to the whims and caprices of these few governors who want him out unconstitutionally, who want him out illegally, by now we would have had a one-party system that everybody was talking about, or is talking about. Yeah, he had stood to uphold the constitutionality of the party to ensure that the right thing is done, to ensure that you don't do things that are abnormal and expect it to stand. So that being said, the party has come to a final. In fact, with this letter from INEC, it has put to rest any other agitation from any quarters. So anybody fighting now is fighting a null battle, because the Supreme Court has made a pronouncement that this man remains the national secretary. INEC, the regulating body, has informed you that any letter not signed or co-signed by INEC will not be accepted. So you have two options. It's either you lead this, you join these boards that are going towards a journey of nowhere in the so-called coalition, or you remain in the formidable PDP that we all know and give a robust opposition.
Hang on a second, Arthur. Hang on a second, Arthur. Did you just say that? Well, that's very debatable when you use the word formidable and the PDP currently, because of everything that I noted from before that's happening inside of the PDP. And I want to ask whether, well, I think the biggest question to ask is who is left in the PDP that serves as a notable icon that could bring things to order and could restore it as the formidable opposition of the APC. Who's left?
You cannot ask who is left when you're speaking to the zonal secretary of the party. I am Honorable Anthony Buchukwu. I'm in the PDP. I am an emerging leader. So for me aside, there are millions of other persons in the PDP. If you look at the people that have left, these are old stock. They are names that we have been hearing since 1998. In fact, since 1991. So they cannot continue to occupy the space when people like us are coming up, when there are youths with strong energy, with strong conviction that we can actually fix this country by ourselves. We cannot continue to have this set of people for donkey years. So, in fact, their exit from the PDP has given room for new leaders to emerge. If you come to Nigeria today, there is no family that does not have at least 2 or 3 members as members of the People's Democratic Party, irrespective of the fact that we have been in opposition.
Mr. Ogochukwu, as of yesterday, we know that the INEC has received and sort of consolidated on a new coalition, which is the All Democratic Alliance, the ADA. And one of the persons who formed that coalition is the former vice president and the presidential candidate for 2023 for your party, and that's the former vice president, Atiku Abubakar. What does the PDP play in all of this?
Well, they have the right, it's their choice. PDP is not bothered about it. Before now, PDP has moved forward. So PDP is looking forward to building a new group of leaders who are going to be steadfast. But it's not the first time Atiku Abubakar is leaving PDP. He left PDP in 2015. In fact, that was the reason why we lost the election. We lost the presidency because Atiku pulled out 7 governors, and out of the 7, 2 returned. He pulled out 5 governors out of PDP. So it has been all about Atiku all the while. So why I say that they are on the voyage to nowhere is, if Atiku did not get the ticket of AG rather, I don't know what they call themselves. ADA. So if he doesn't get the presidential ticket of the party, he will AG, yeah. Because it's always about him. If not him, then he pulls down the house. So those of them joining him to that voyage, I pity them. Because it's only going to be all about Atiku. If it is not him, he will sink the ship. So that's why I made that assumption. He left PDP in 2015, made us lose presidency. We compensated him in 2023 with presidential ticket, 2019, presidential ticket, compensated him in 2023 with the presidential ticket. So he has been a serial contestant, and the PDP can't continue to have serial contestants who can be serial winners.
Yeah, but with the mass defections,
we are not bothered.
With the mass defections that we're seeing, who is a strong candidate within your party or a strong individual in the party that can clinch the ticket? I mean, you can name a few. You don't have to name a particular individual that can clinch a presidential ticket that can run against the juggernaut that is APC.
There are people.
And they are? I would like some names, please.
So hello, I'm one of them.
I thought you were going to say that.
I mean, anyway, back to... Go ahead. Go ahead, you
there are many people. I don't want to mention names. Okay. Right. When that time comes, you will see arrays of this.
All right, well, the time is now.
Just a second.
The time is now because APC is already, the ball is already rolling.
Arthur, I want to commend you for the youth inclusivity here when you mention yourself and a host of other young people, also noting that these people have been here for too long and perhaps are not what the PDP needs. Fresh blood is great, but I'm an advocate for people actually putting their money where their mouths are. If these young people are available inside the PDP, why are we not seeing the activities, their activities now? We're close to 2027, and all we've been, we've gotten our rhetorics from the APC and people moving to the APC. It would seem that the internal divisions inside the PDP is not exactly helping the way people, public perception. And you need public perception for votes. If at this point there is no strong icon that can lead the PDP to a good opposition for the APC, don't you think we're late to the party right now as youths? And I'm talking to Arthur Ogochukwu.
Oh, yeah, yes, we're not late. We're not late to the party. APC is a party, is a government in power. So they have their ways, they have their means. Like in 2023, prior to this election, we have had public perceptions. In fact, when Muhammadu Buhari came, former President Muhammadu Buhari, it was this kind of perception too, that everybody said, Jonathan, this, we want a general, we want this. And when Muhammadu Buhari came, we didn't see a general in him. We saw insecurity went up to the high level. We saw our economy deplete. We saw our foreign reserves go down the drain. In fact, we saw our GDP, everything was a mess. The problem is this present APC government is a carryover from that of Muhammadu Buhari's administration. So the public rhetoric and public opinions is not going to play much in 2027. 2027 is going to come up with its own uniqueness.
That's very debatable. In fact, that's maybe not is not, because if you say it's not going to play much, then who are you going to ask to come to the ballots? It's public perception at the end of the day, and it's very necessary that even by this time there are identifiable individuals within the party that people could place their hopes on, watch their activity, and then make a decision in 2027. But they're not there, which is once again why I ask if we, as the youth, coming from your statement, are not late to that party, because everybody else seems to be moving out the door and jumping ship to, you know, the one big ship for self-preservation reasons. My rhetoric there. I don't know, Judith, please.
Yeah, Mr. Ogochukwu. Yeah, you know, the politics is it's like a chess game. PDP has fought their own battle, and people are jumping ships to APC. Some are jumping to nowhere. So APC own battle is coming. In fact, it has already started. So when we say that everybody going in, when you see all the people come to the room and then you bring is one thing going to the forest to kill an antelope, is another thing coming home to share and know who gets what and who doesn't get what. So APC's problem is going to start very, very soon. Yesterday, you know, you see what happened between the Vice President Kassim Shettima and the APC National Chairman when he refused to shake his hand, he refused to shake the hands of the Deputy Senate President in public glare. So their own battle is brewing. So it's going to unfold very soon. By the time it will start, PDP must have already come out of their own problem, and we will be in the process of reconciliation and fixing ourselves back. By tomorrow, PDP is going to pick up with the activities of the party, and then we will call those other people who are great. Come back. This is the only place you know you can have a base. Leave the people going other way because they may fall along the line. This is the only formidable party in Nigeria as of today. So when you ask for who are the people that will run for PDP, I can assure you that there are people. Many of them.
Mr.
Ogochukwu. In fact, people are looking at this. Some of us that are party officials in states, people are making inroads, trying to get the people.
I mean, you keep using the word formidable, that phrase, the formidable party in Nigeria. And away from that, right, back to this rejection that we've gotten from the INEC. We understand that, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I understand that it effectively has stalled a major reconciliation process within the PDP. And so it begs out the question about, you know, the immediate plans that are in place to correct the error and reissue the NEC notice properly.
Yeah, well, the reconciliation in PDP, the reconciliation efforts in PDP led by Dr. Abubakar Bukola Saraki did an excellent job. They did a fantastic job. And the last stakeholders meeting, the expanded stakeholders meeting, which they honestly tagged 99 NEC meeting. Some of those reports, both the one by Saraki-led administration gave was there. So another thing that Governor Pikamba, Governor Makinde, and the three other persons did, they sent their emissaries to INEC. In fact, they went to INEC by themselves to ascertain who was the true national secretary, who is the true national secretary of the party. And INEC told them, before giving them this letter, that INEC is the national secretary of the party. So all these are in public domain. All these are, all these are already spelled out. It's not in doubt. So that letter that was written to see if they can touch the water again, to pave way for these other people who have launched their ADA now to proceed with whatever they are doing. So the party is on the right track towards rebuilding itself, towards rebranding itself into a more better opposition.
No, congratulations. The word rebranding. Congratulations. The word rebranding is actually a very apt word. However, Arthur, I wanted to know regarding the implications of the discrepancies that were noted here in this letter, whether Anyao was the secretary or not. It's indicative of the fact that there are many things that need to be sorted inside of the PDP. So do you agree with me that if these things aren't sorted out, that the party actually risks being deregistered? And that wouldn't be a very good look. But that seems to be where it's heading to. And we're talking about the PDP, not just any party. Do you agree?
The formidable party of Nigeria.
So that's part of the thing Anyanwu had stood for over this long battle, to ensure that the party is not destroyed by a few governors. Because we are aware that 1-2 governors are the ones that are being for trying to force the party to do the wrong thing, or trying to force INEC to do the wrong thing. But we have come beyond that stage now. It's left for them to accept that this is what the law has said. The Supreme Court, which is the final arbiter in the land, has said this man didn't do what is the national secretary of the party. You must make sure you do that. Then the INEC has informed them. The Saraki-led committee has given their report. Every responsible organ of the party has given them this report. In fact, out of the 8 or 9 governors that were in this battle before, I have come to realize that it's just a few, 1-2 of them that are still in this battle. So they are not more lawful in the country than the Supreme Court, and they are not more PDP than some of us who are still members of the party too. So they will be left with 2 options, like I said. As far as we are concerned, the problem in the party is resolved. Senator Samuel Anyanwu is the national secretary of the party. He will resume in his office immediately after the Salah break, which is by tomorrow. He will be in the Yelwata doing the normal activities of the national secretary. In fact, he has been doing that even before they went on Salah break. So if anybody goes to the back to send a letter that is not appropriate, the person is just trying to throw in spanners into the water to see whether there will be some bubbles to come up. But Anyanwu has been doing his function as the national secretary of the party right from the pronouncement by the Supreme Court. So these ones are just made distractions. And I am glad, I thank God that we have come up of all these shenanigans now. And the letter from the INEC has put to rest any person, any doubting Thomas from any protest.
Mr. Ogochukwu, I have to ask.
The party is not going to be
right. I have to ask you, Mr. Anyanwu is resuming after the Salah break on Monday, as you stated, and we know that the FCT minister has been going after the PDP on its headquarters, the office of their headquartered office over land charge. What's the latest on that?
Well, I don't have the latest right now, but when we resume tomorrow, you know, we're giving, it's not just the PDP, all the defaulters of the ground rents we are giving 14 days by Mr. President himself to apply. And we have been on break for that past 2 weeks. So when we resume tomorrow, we are going to take inventories of what has happened, and then the right thing will be done. I can be able to give you updates on that.
All right. I must say thank you so much for taking out the time, Mr. Ogochukwu, for joining us here and giving us a bit of insight following this NEC rejection of that letter. And we wait to see what Monday will look like for resumption for Anyanwu. Hopefully there won't be no snafus at the office, the headquartered office. We hope to see that everything will go well, but hey, it's Nigeria. We never can tell.
We also hope to see a very rebranded PDP.
Yeah, formidable PDP.
Formidable, yeah.
Yeah.
Please.
Arthur Ogochukwu is the Zonal Secretary of the PDP in Imo State. Once again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Arthur. Coming up, we are going to be bringing you the headlines at the top of the hour. Let's go on that break and we'll be back with that. Morning once again and welcome. It's time for Breakfast Headlines here inside of Breakfast Extra. My name is Mazino Appeal. We begin with security matters. Tragedy struck in Kano on Saturday as a powerful explosion rocked the local community, killing at least 5 people. Authorities believe the blast may have been caused by military-grade equipment in transit. Kano State Commissioner of Police Ibrahim Bakori, who visited the scene shortly after the incident, said the blast is believed to have come from military ordnance that may have been mishandled or improperly transported. According to primary investigations, the explosion, or rather explosive, was being moved by a trailer from Yobe State. However, it remains unclear whether the vehicle was operated by military personnel or contractors.
Tell us what actually happened with regards to the news we had regarding the explosion.
In the morning, I received an information from DPO Mariri that there an explosive at Gidan Karfi in his area of jurisdiction. So I rushed to the place. And I met 15 people injured. They were rushed to the hospital, teach hospital, where I met the doctor confirmed 5 dead and 10 are receiving treatment.
So far, what are your findings with regards to the vehicle, where it is coming from, and other things?
When I arrived at the scene, it was restricted. So our EOD personnel are there watching. But the information I received, is that the vehicle came from Yobe State. So one of the explosive, one exploded, and now they have recovered 7.
What sort of explosive devices are these?
It is suspected to be this mortal explosive, mortal bomb.
Well, is it a common knowledge? Is it a common thing to have within scraps explosive of that nature, sir?
You know, scavengers you normally pick from those bin, waste bin, and other things from all over. So maybe they have just picked it from somewhere and they brought it with the truck to Kano, to the factory where they normally upload it.
Having known where Yobe State is and how sensitive that area is in terms of insurgency, is there the possibility of it being scraps from maybe insurgency?
For now, I cannot say it because the case is under investigation.
At least 12 people have reportedly been killed and 17 others injured after a female suicide bomber attacked a local food joint in Kundura LGA of Borno State. It was gathered that the incident occurred at about 10 p.m. on Friday, leaving several others severely injured. Police sources said the attacker detonated the IED at the food joint. A joint security team comprising military and police officers, civilian joint task force, and local hunters has reportedly visited the scene of the bombing. And in more news,
Rasu bulabara kamara ga waru wa jimbo kamara lay da suke shi ma bulabaro da sawa lay bulabara la bana kala ta ma gar rukata bulabaro rukata bulabara andero wata laga suke ta da wata sahara andero kuru sai yar kala kalan gudta tara wuza au kuma ga walu a sama ga kuru nan ga yar ce kala kina da duk da kuru karami balle wani yande wat awan da wan tun Omar Biska kaji washan kwata washan ya kuma minti ta ka ko ya wasu ma shirwa watan sawan da zoro sawan litin dai karu ku ta sai dan ga fulema an da sha abunin ka wasu ne ke ba bi ka bune maro na fadin kare ro ki kurun chulan u awru annara kun ge awda sha chondo to mara wa lo karu ni ko.
And that's as much headlines we can take this top of the hour inside the 10 o'clock hour. Do stay tuned. There's still about an hour to go inside of Breakfast Extra. Welcome back. Yet another discussion here, and let's bring it home, at least for me. Now, for over 2 decades, the Ndokwa region of Delta State has remained in near total darkness, and I mean this literally. No steady power, no grid connection, no meaningful development in sight. But this week, or rather last week, the silence was broken. On Monday, hundreds of Ndokwa youths took to the streets in Kwale to demand the restoration of electricity after 25 long years of blackout. Brandishing placards and chanting peacefully, the protesters blocked key access routes, including the Asaba-Kwale-Ozoro Highway and the Asaba-Ugeli Road, bringing regional traffic to a standstill and national attention to the crisis long ignored. Now, reacting swiftly to the protest, the Delta State government, through Commissioner for Works and Public Information Charles Anyagu, announced renewed efforts to light up Ndokwa Nation at a press conference in Asaba. The commissioner assured the people that the state is taking concrete steps to solve the long-standing electricity problem once and for all. However, residents say they've heard promises like this before, and what they want now is power, not platitudes. Let's take a look at the first report here brought by our new central correspondent, Austin Azu from during the week.
The protesters in large numbers at Kwale, Delta State, mounted roadblocks with burning fires at different spots on the major roads of the Asaba-Kwale-Ozoro Highway and the Asaba-Ugele Road to draw attention to the lack of electricity in the area. The protest led to significant disruption in vehicular movement, bringing it to a standstill, leaving passengers stranded. The situation was being monitored by security forces, who eventually began firing tear gas to dislodge the protesters. The protesters expressed their dissatisfaction at the manner in which the situation was handled.
Totally disappointed on what is going on here. People are doing peaceful protests, but look at what is happening. They damage so many machines, so many cars, using tear gas to chase people away. I remember when this process started, it was very peaceful. But instead of government, Delta State government, I mean the governor of Delta State, to come and read this matter once for all. He refused, and to use force on the people.
What did I tell you? Give my family food. Balance and take. We are one start from. We are one start from Onyema. It's a tell. We are one start from. We are one start from. Ebe nke si bido se. Nisa abu onyo kwane. Abu onyo ndokwa. Ebe kundisi le bia.
We have how many companies in this town, and we don't have lights. They are eating the money. Enough is enough. We not go agree. We need lights.
But we stand today to tell the deputy governor that what we need is IPP step down.
Peaceful protests. We're not disturbing anybody. The police are passing. We're just there dancing and waiting for the government to come and address us. The next thing we just saw, policemen from Asasakus and others started shooting tear gas and gone.
Peaceful protests, what they do, they carry arms and ammunition, they shoot us. See my hand. See my hand.
All they have to do is to use the military men to come and oppress us here in our community without addressing us, shot almost our persons, almost few of the bike were burned, some were stabbed. What is the meaning of this? The federal government should come and intervene in this case.
Niger, Republic, Kaduna, Lagos, Abuja, connect light from here. More than 25 years now, we don't have light here. And we think that we're happy.
Very many people, they were injured. You know, tear gas all over. We cannot see road. Even my bike, before I got to the place where my bike is, they have already punctured my bike.
The protesters have insisted that they remain at the venue of the protest until their demands are met. In Kwale, for News Central, Austin Azu.
And thanks to Austin for that report. And now to explore both the grassroots frustration and the government's latest response, we are joined by two guests. First, Austin, our correspondent who brought you that report and who's covered the protest live from Kwale. And also with us is Elder Godwin Osai. He's a seasoned administrator and chieftain of the APC in Delta State, with insight into the state's infrastructure politics and the political will needed to end this 25-year power drought. Gentlemen, many thanks for joining us. We appreciate you for coming on. I mean, Austin, we will have to keep you on hold and start with you, Elder. Elder, you have seen that report that was brought by a correspondent. So I do have to ask you your reaction to the, just the 25 years of no power. It is staggering, but most importantly, the response to the peaceful protest by the residents of Kwale.
Now, the history of... I'm saying I am glad that you guys brought up this issue to the public. So it's no longer something that is hidden, like they would want the communities to believe that it's not real. What is happening is not real, but it's obviously clear that it is real. Now, before this protest started, it was advertised properly that it was going to be a peaceful protest to register their disenchantment with the way Ndokwa Nation has been treated over the years. The history of deprivation and oppression of the people is very, very clear for the world to to see right from independence till this day, they have been suffering oppression, suppression, and deprivation. They couldn't help it anymore. The youth couldn't take it. And these are people that have been, the Ndokwa people have been very peaceful over the years. Even through the period of oil and gas exploration and exploitation in the place, the despoilation of their environment, they have always felt that governments and the multinationals will be responsible to address these issues. Till today, not until recently, the only visible federal government presence, for instance, in that nation is the old mud house prison yard that they had. I guess it should be the time of Mongo Park or Landa Brothers. Until recently, when they had a very rare opportunity of having the Federal University of Medicine and Medical Studies at Kwale. But before then, the issue of darkness has always been there. The IPP, which generates light to other parts of the country, at least 9 states, and Abuja, this is an open fact, does not even care about the environment from where they draw all the gas and every oil resource. They don't care about their welfare. Maybe because the people are docile, they are seen to be docile because they love peace. It happened to the Ijaw nation until they rose. If you remember the Kayama Declaration of 1998, until they rose, they were oppressed like the Ndokwa people. So these young men now know that their future is bleak. You may even ask, don't they have leaders? Yes, what kind of leaders do they have if they do? Are they partners of the oppressors? They can't just fathom why their place is like the way it is now. Ndokwa used to be a board division. You know, even after the Civil War, before the Civil War, we had Midwest, we had Bendel, there were 12 states, there were 19 states, up till now that is 25 states. Our board division has only split to 3, manageably 3, when they should have reached 7. Because of their landmass and their population and their resources, they can be self-sustaining. But no, the powers that be will subjugate them. And so they are now faced with darkness. Darkness both symbolically and physically. Darkness means people should not hear, see, or know any evil that is being lashed onto them. Darkness means the absence of light. Light, where there is no light, light represents education, foresight, openness. Since they have been put in darkness for more than 20 years, nobody is talking about it. So you won't blame them to say, let us do a peaceful protest. Let's do a peaceful protest. Let us, if we write and talk and interview and nobody hears us, nothing will happen. So they have to give notice that they're going to protest openly and peacefully. Here you are. I saw the review you just did now, that they were harmless, yet the powers that be, people in government, out of hypocrisy and political rightness, sent in the police, the forces, to bring them down. Peaceful, even the president, our current president, took part in protests.
Elder Godwin, just a second, sir. Very interesting submissions there made by you. I hope you can hear me because we're trying to get your attention here. I would like to come to our News Central correspondent, Austin Azu, who put together that report which you're referencing right now. Austin, first of all, I wanted to say at the end there, you pretty much looked like some of the protesters yourself, marching down as you were giving your call sign there. Very interesting. I loved that report. However, let's look at the issues therein. Now, I know the Ndokwa area, I know Kwale, But it's a broader problem across the Niger Delta, especially when you start to look at most parts of Ugeli, Iede, Oyode, Ole, Iri. These are parts of Delta states that have very huge oil wells. I think the Ole oil well is somewhere in there. And these facilities will generate so much for the country. However, these parts of the Delta are in stark darkness. When it comes to the authorities regarding the protest, security, first of all, for the way they handled the protest, has there been any response from the authorities, the security authorities, and has there been any response from the electricity authorities, the DISCO perhaps, regarding the protest and the matters that it brought forward?
First and foremost, let me take from the rear. Of course, most of our communities, especially those oil producing areas, they give out what they have to the nation, but however, they seem not to be getting much from the nation as well. That's one of the issues bedeviling those communities. Hence the protests and individuals coming out to protest over, marginalization and abandonment and so on and so forth. So Kwale's case, the recent protest, is just one among others. You go inside those communities, you discover that you have a lot of gas flaring, you have a lot of pollution, but you can't find any tangible things that most of these multinational oil companies has actually done for the people to alleviate their pains and so on and so forth. How can one be producing, generating power and the person does not have electricity? It's just like one who claims that he's inside the ocean, precisely inside the river, and he allows soaps to enter his eyes. So it's quite a pathetic situation for the Ndokwa nation. And it cut across different areas in Delta. Delta is oil producing states, no gainsaying the fact, and you can't equally measure the impact on most of those communities. Now, we gathered at the protests that some of their people were arrested, taken away by the security agencies. Let me allude to the fact of what Engineer Osai just stated, that the police came at almost after hours of protesting. They came to dispatch them with tear gas, and some of their motorcycles. We saw one that was burnt, and others were just scattered, and so on and so forth. I only saw some individuals after, complaining about their vehicles being destroyed by the protesters. We saw one of the House of Assembly members, I don't want to mention names, who was on his vehicle to Asaba that very day. His vehicle was damaged, and some other individuals, even when we saw the viral video of the Commissioner for Youth who went to fight them, to talk to them, so that they will stop the protest here and then. So all these were pockets of issues that erupted from the protest. Now, the authorities have not confidently come out to speak on the aspect of the protest to alert Deltans what has really happened. But they claim that about truncating the peace of the states. We had a lot of passengers who were stranded on that very day, and people who ought to have gone to one or two places to go about their lawful duties were stranded. So I believe that's one of the reasons why the power that being in courts have to invite the police to come and dispatch the protesters. But the protesters were so, I don't know how to put it, if they were so organized, because at the end of the day that they were dispatched from that particular junction that the police met them, they went back to the streets to demonstrate and to register their grievances that they are not going to surrender. And they actually said 7 days. And lo and behold, we went there after the 2 days protest. We didn't see anyone on the road. Probably there are ongoing discussions about what needed to be done about the ongoing prolonged blackouts in Ndokwa Nation. And just like what the Commissioner for Public Enlightenment and Rural Works said, that the state government is looking into the demands of the people of Ndokwa Nation. And he equally said that the deputy governor is from Ndokwa Nation as well, and the governor of the state has directed him to mediate between the Ndokwa Nation and the holding company. And of course, in Nigeria, you discover that even when you buy your transformer, for you to energize it, you have to pay the power company to come and install. So it's really a difficult situation for Ndokwa Nation if they are going to have lights immediately. But the government said machinery has been put in place to ensure that they are able to resolve the the prolonged blackouts in the Ndokwa Nation. So we don't know if anyone is still in police custody, the protesters, or not, but I believe that as time goes by, the police should be able to tell us the aftermath of the protest, if any of them are still within the police custody. But from reliable information we gathered, that some of them who were arrested on that fateful day have started regaining their freedoms. So it means that some of them will start coming out. Depends on who is involved in this issue of broken peace between the security agencies and the protesters themselves. But at the moment, Kwale and Ndokwa Nation is calm. Everyone seems to be going about their lawful duty. And like what they said, this is not the first time they are protesting. They started protesting in 2005, 2010, 2015, and 2025. Hopefully, this protest will yield a positive impact that some communities in quote, it's not the entire Ndokwa Nation that is total blackout, but predominantly most of the communities are in blackout.
All right.
But the time will come whereby they will begin to have a sign of
I do have to quote your apologies there, but I just want to get a final remark from Elder Osai here as we wrap up this hour. Very quickly, despite several administrations, 25 years of darkness still persists. What will be your call to the government at this time? Very quickly, because we're out of time. Elder.
Yeah, I think the next thing to do is for us to expect the government to intervene at both levels, federal and state, because these people deserve to be heard. They deserve to be heard indeed. There's no need muzzling them down. There's no need coming to be politically right by those who are in authority just to impress power. No, this is reality. It is a risk that is facing all of us. If not for the NADECO and all those struggles, we won't be having this democracy we're having today. So why don't you allow open vent for people, all parts of this country, to open their mind and say what is real, and as long as they are what they are suffering. The Ndokwa Nation has suffered enough. I think the government should intervene. There were some other lousy comments, lousy interpretations of it, giving it some other political notion that strangers are coming. There's nothing like that. Initially, they said there was not going to be, there's no protest. Ndokwa people are not protesting because they have been written off as people who are docile, timid, poor, helpless. And so they don't have people to speak for them. But the youths are coming. They need to protect their tomorrow. I think government should do something. Unfortunately, the governor was not available when all these things were happening. We understand he was out of the country. He's a listening man. The president is a listening man. These are people who I believe are compassionate. And we look at the struggle of these people, not just Ndokwa alone. So many parts of Delta have been marginalized and left in their squalor. The Ope area suffered deprivation. The Jaws suffered deprivation. They are getting respite now. Ndokwasi remains in that quagmire. I plead with the federal government, the president, to come to see the spoliation in the place and do something about it. I plead with the present governor, Right Honorable Sheriff Oberewori, to come and see for himself. He's doing well. Let him come and make Ndokwa Nation a part of his activity, fully and visibly, because they produce oil. There are over 12 oil producing companies there. They harness all the gas and all that. We all know these facts. All the promises that the community will be lighted, nothing happened. You won't even use solar energy to iron your clothes on the solar energy, solar light in the streets. Will you use that to do anything in your house? You just go to NDDC, get a contract and put solar energy, solar lights, and you think that that is lighting up the... What about industrial takeoff?
Elder, I must say thank you for taking out the time to join us today. Your call has been, very explicit and clear. Hopefully the state government does something about it. 25 years, let them be the administration that takes charge to make a difference in the Ndokwa Nation and its environs. Austin Azu, many thanks for bringing us that report. Austin Azu, our correspondent live from Delta, and also our guest today, Elder Godwin Osai, who is a chieftain, APC chieftain in Delta State. Once again, thank you. We're going to a short break. When we come back, we'll switch gears to Wellness Central, and we raise awareness about sickle cell. Stay with us.
Welcome back again. It's our final conversation, and it's Wellness Extra. Every June 19, the world marks World Sickle Cell Day. It's a moment to raise awareness about one of the most common, yet most misunderstood genetic conditions in Nigeria. All the red ribbons and media sound bites flood the air. The lived reality for sickle cell patients is often silent and brutal. For thousands of Nigerians, many of them children, life is a cycle of pain, stigma, hospital admissions, and overwhelming drug costs. The high cost of essential medication like hydroxyurea and the limited availability of specialized care centers across the country means survival often comes down to luck, privilege, or relentless community support. A recent report by Daily Trust revealed that many patients either ration their medication or skip them entirely due to cost. Others endure long trips to underfunded clinics that barely have the resources to manage crisis, let alone offer preventive or psychological care. Yet, amidst all this, a growing network of foundations, advocates, and survivors themselves continue to fight not just for visibility, but for dignity, policy change, and a chance at normalcy.
So to walk us through the complex world of advocacy, support systems, and the way forward, we're joined now by Mrs. Edith Otokina. She's the CEO of the Tony May Foundation, an organization committed to improving the lives of people living with sickle cell through access, education, and empowerment. Madam, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I mean, this year's Sickle Cell Day comes with yet another sobering reality check. I mean, from your work on the front lines, working with those living with disability, empowering, educating, and creating awareness, what does this day mean for you?
To me, it's a day of celebrating fulfillment, hope. I say fulfillment because I have passion for the job I'm doing. Being a victim of sickle cell. I had 5 children with sickle cell, lost 2 graduates. 1 biochemist at the age of 29. 6 months after, I lost a lawyer, Mary. So this, when I had to, my faith helped me to process this sorrow positively, and told myself, the family agreed, we just agreed that what happened to us must not happen to others. We didn't have knowledge of it, and now, being properly informed, we came out strong to make sure other people don't suffer what we suffered. So this day, we create awareness, and I say we celebrate hope because through us creating awareness, people are becoming used to how to manage it better. Right. So the fear of dying needlessly is no longer there.
I must say that my heart goes out to you, you know, for losing a child. That's an unimaginable pain to any parent, and losing 2, it must be hard for you. And so I have to talk about the biggest challenges, not as even, because you are dual in this case. Not only are you a sickle cell warrior, but you're also a parent to children who are sickle cell warriors as well. What's the biggest challenge having to deal with that?
I'm not living with sickle cell.
Oh, I thought you said you were a victim. Oh, you're a victim because of your children. Oh, I understand now. Oh, because when you said you're a victim, I thought you meant you are. So, meaning that you're a parent who having to deal with, you know, and they're all sickle cell warriors, and you're also working with sickle cell warriors as well. So, what's the biggest challenge for them?
The biggest challenge is that most of them will deal with the indigents. When you come to because we organize clinics for them, providing them with medication, basic medication. When you look at them, the states, they have no means of even good food. They have no means of good food, so medication. So those are the accessibility to basic drugs. Difficult.
How basic are these drugs? How expensive does it run into? I keep hearing one and the name hydroxyurea. What exactly is it? How does it play here? The challenges.
Hydroxyurea seems to be the only interventional medication we have here. It has to. It's helped to
manage crisis.
Manage crisis.
The pain
crisis. Making sure that the blood does not sickle easily.
Okay.
So it is the sickling of the blood that causes a crisis.
Okay.
So the hydroxyurea is the only drug we have for now.
So what's access like and affordability when it comes to hydroxyurea?
That is where the problem is. It is very expensive, and it's not accessible, it's not affordable. It's hard to get.
So there are two problems here. It's not accessible,
it's
not affordable. Let's talk about the affordability. Now, people don't choose which families they, come into, and like we noted in the beginning, it's down to, for some people, luck, down to support from their families, or down to whether they're privileged before they're able to have the access or afford this drug. How expensive is it? Let's start. Let's get an idea of the amount.
To get a pack, you're supposed to be taking one in a day, and one is just a sachet, 7,000 plus in some places.
For one pill.
One sachet.
One sachet.
One sachet of 10.
Okay. Okay.
Of 10.
Yeah.
And now to be able to afford it,
that's like 700 naira per day.
Yeah. So to be able to afford that 7,000 naira sachet, you must first of all find that drug. Why is it hard to find?
I once met with this born pharmaceutical company that sells this. He said, like, Nigeria is not able to, we are not able to get it because people are not, there are no people who can afford it. Unlike Ghana, the government subsidizes it, and you have a lot of people using it. And because it's not being used by many people here, there's nothing they can do.
No, but we do have a staggering number of people who are living with the sickle cell.
We have the highest number.
Exactly. So why isn't it policy already? Why isn't the government looking at this as
democratizing the access to this drug that seems to be life-saving for them?
We have. That is why the coalition of sickle cell NGOs in Nigeria, we've gone to National Assembly to beg the government to help us subsidize this, create policies that will make things easy for us. But
let's look at the psychosocial issues of sickle cell warriors as well. They have to face multi-pronged issues. Number one is, the stigmatization that comes with them, the inability to find work or even stay at work because of the pain crisis. There's also the religious stigma that comes with it as well, and spiritual issues, and the multidimensional cultural issues, spiritual affliction. People who seem to think. So you've worked with sickle cell warriors. How would you advise that they tackle these issues on everyday life?
It's through awareness. Like we do, most of the NGOs, we go out to schools, to camp, to churches, mosques, to create awareness on how that this sickle cell is not spiritual. But there's a little we can do. It's only by creating awareness. But even this creation of awareness, we still face barriers. Because, like we all know, Nigeria is corrupt. You go to places, they will want you to bribe them before you can gain
That's
entrance.
unfortunate.
So
that's very unfortunate.
Right.
So
where does
they create barriers? The procedural is something that we cannot even.
Quite unimaginable. I can see the pain in your eyes as you speak to us about it.
We want to go out. We want to go out, but even the Nigerian, the society is not helping us.
In terms of like disability assistance, you know.
We are creating assistance, allowing us to come out, listen to us.
Social programs.
Social programs, yes.
Platforms. It's very difficult, I can see. Now, for the advocacy that you do and the organization that you have founded and other organizations that are advocating for sickle cell warriors, where does this advocacy start? I'm asking very particularly because we still find cases of people who live with sickle cell being born. After plenty of advice from advocates like you for couples to always check on their status or their genotype before getting married. Is this a major theme in your advocacy, or is it the latter? Are you saying, here we are, we have sickle cell warriors among us, let's attend to that? Or is it the former, watch it first before you engage? Which is it?
Watch it first before you engage. That's what we know, your genotype. We preach it always.
Why is this a big, please explain why it's a big issue.
Because if it is, it's a genetic problem. If you marry a compatible partner, you are not going to have it. The study has shown that if you marry AS, you're definitely going to have.
Most likely you have an SS.
So, like me, my husband and I, we are both AS. We didn't know. We didn't know because we married in the village setting, so there is not like a genotype test, even till now.
So now you have that word out as a theme in your advocacy. What challenges do you face when you meet couples who are aware of their status, are aware of their genotype, yet the factor of love plays in?
Sometimes I sympathize with even those carrying the traits, because if you want to the only way to avoid is AS marry AA, SS marry AA. Marry AA, marry SS,
marry AA.
But you find that because of the stigmatization, because of this, nobody is ready to bear this, carry this body. You don't even want to have the trait.
Right.
Of having
I'm so glad you said that, because there are people who have sickle cell and they can't find love. They can't find love. They can't find love. They can't find, and they crave for companionship.
Yes,
so when you have that, you know, because restricted. You know, even if you're AA and you have a partner or you meet someone who's SS, they run the other direction. Even if the genetics might play and you only have AS, you know, but it's a complicated issue, right? And my heart to the warriors. Whenever I think about it, my heart goes out to the warriors, because it's like it's a life almost doomed to be without companionship, so to speak. But away from that, right? You are a parent who have shared their story, and I'm sure to our viewers who are watching from home, I know there's somebody who's watching and is like they're drawing strength from you or hearing their story that is similar to yours, you know, and they have the same experiences. How can you provide support? So foundation provides support to those type of parents who are dealing with this situation, who have children, you know, who are warriors or who might be predisposed to have children who will be warriors.
I will advise them to look for NGOs. Sickle cell NGOs, we are there for them to advise them. Even those who are already through misdiagnosis and got married and are having, there are still solutions. And sickle cell is not a death sentence. With the breakthrough, I think my first daughter is married with children.
Nice. And
is doing well in Canada. The other one in UK, they are doing well. So I will advise anyone who is in, we are not able to find a relationship. God is there for you. Be happy. What you need is happiness. There are those who are married and even this craving for happiness.
Yes, they can't find
it. They can't find it. Be happy. Look for something that will make you happy. You can adopt if you must have children. Adopt. So that is what.
Reminds me of a saying that my auntie, the late auntie, used to say, "May so rest in peace." This is Rosemary Mfongad. She would say that marriage is like a disco house. You'll be outside and see people in there dancing, and you're having FOMO. I want to get in. I want to get in. And when you go inside, you realize those who are dancing have no choice but to dance. Yes. Their feet is hurting. They're in pain. They want to sit down, but they're there. They're just dancing. But I say, hey, oh my God, I need to get it. Auntie, may you so rest in peace forever. Forever.
Thank you very much for your expressions here this morning. I'm sure that one or two viewers, if not very many, have taken sample from the things that you've said and advised as well. And we hope that we find ourselves in a situation where the government begins to pay attention to people who are sickle cell warriors and maybe help make life a little easier for them. And you as an individual, we hope that you show a little bit of empathy the next time you find someone who is in that condition and you help them along their way. That's all we can do as humans.
Yeah, absolutely. And also to all the public spaces, workers, employers as well, make sure to provide as much support as you can to sickle cell warriors. It's important within your purview to know their status and support in any way that you possibly can. Once again, Mrs. Otokina, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, madam.
In commemoration of the day, we are organizing a summit in September. The theme is Beyond the Pain, navigating the equitable access to
healthcare for warriors. All right, so make sure to find them. Tony May Foundation on social media and get all the information that you can. Once again, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That's all we can take on this hour. It's been fun all the way from Saturday at 8 a.m. in the morning down to this very minute. Make sure to join us next week. But on Monday, the trio is back, and that's Olive, Joe, and Benga for Breakfast Central. So join them from Monday to Friday. We will be back live at Saturday morning, 8 a.m. bright and early. Join us then. Until then, bye for now. Give us the wide. There you go.